We just got major breaking news this morning. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just had articles of impeachment filed against him by Congressman Sri Thanada. Thanada's impeachment legislation accuses Hegseth of murder, conspiracy to murder, and reckless and unlawful handling of classified material. Enough of this already. Enough.
It's a very bad day for Pete Hegseth as Admiral Bradley is about to go before Congress and testify about the double tap boat strike, get the real story to Congress, and now a representative from Michigan, Sri Thanada, a Democrat, is looking to file articles of impeachment against Pete Hegseth for murder, war crimes, and endangering our military service members over the signal chat that's now been confirmed to have done that. And a full unclassified report on that is supposed to come out today. So guys, the heat is turning up on Pete Hegseth and the pressure is mounting. There's even bipartisan support forming for this impeachment effort on him. So we'll see what happens here. I think everyone will wait to see what the facts are from Admiral Bradley and then make decisions from there. So we won't get all those facts. They'll be classified, but we'll get signals, and by the actions Congress takes after this, we'll have a good idea of what's happened with all of this. So guys, stay tuned. Keep checking back for updates. It's changing hour by hour. Make sure to follow, subscribe, like this video, share it, spread the word, and I'll see you back here for the 411 very soon.
Breaking news, articles of impeachment have been announced against Donald Trump's Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, accusing him of murder as well as the illegal mishandling of classified documents. Here's everything that you need to know. The first allegation of murder is coming from an alleged war crime that took place in the South Caribbean, where the U.S. military blew up a suspected narco boat and killed everybody on board but 2 people, and once they figured out they were still alive, they sent a second strike designed and targeted to kill them, even after they were incapacitated. The video of this alleged war crime was shown to members of Congress this morning. The senior Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee said it is one of the most troubling things he's ever seen in his time in public service. Now let's talk about the second accusation made in the announced articles of impeachment, which once again was the illegal and reckless mishandling of classified information. Months ago, Pete Hegseth accidentally added a news reporter to a Signal group chat where leading members of our government were discussing classified war plans. Today, a report released by our government concluded that he mishandled classified information and put the lives of American troops at risk. So what comes next? Well, now the articles of impeachment must be formally filed, which is something that we could expect to occur. After they're formally filed, they'll be up for a vote, but I honestly think that the Republicans are going to shoot the articles of impeachment down and prevent them from even going to a vote on the floor of the House of the Representatives. Anyways, that's all for now. I'll keep you updated as we learn more.
Pete Hegseth pressured a 4-star admiral with 37 years of service to resign because he was concerned about the illegal strikes in the Caribbean. The shocking departure of Admiral Alvin Halsey 1 year into his tenure as head of U.S. Southern Command, which oversees military operations in the Caribbean, was announced by Hegseth on October 16th. It followed months of discord between the pair that intensified in the summer when the Trump administration began bombing the alleged boats. Hegseth told Halsey during a meeting this year, "You're either on my team or you're not. When you get asked an order, you move out fast and don't ask questions, even if it's illegal." Lawmakers and experts have said that asking the 4-star military chief to step aside during an escalating military operation was an extraordinary move. That's a nice way to put it. The tension between these two has been previously reported, with a Pentagon spokesperson named Sean saying it was fake news. This is a total lie, never happened. There was no hesitation or concerns about this mission. Halsey was reportedly concerned about the legality of the Caribbean operation and objected that parts of the mission fell outside of his direct control. This was because other military units involved fell under separate chains of command. When a senior commander feels compelled to step aside because of murky legality, that's a pretty good indication that something is fundamentally wrong with the decision-making process. And Hegseth's comment here, "When you get an order, you move out fast and don't ask questions," is unbelievable. The U.S. military is not built on blind obedience.
Okay, this story is wild and it's moving fast. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth reportedly hauled Admiral Alvin Halsey into his office because Halsey refused to carry out attacks on fishing boats in the Caribbean. Halsey told him straight up he was worried about civilian casualties. Rather than addressing that, Hegseth pushed back and reminded him of his sworn duty. But here's the part that matters most. Halsey responded, that after 40 years of service, he was not going to follow an illegal order. And that is when Hegseth threatened to strip him of his command. And the meeting blew up. And get this, within 15 minutes, Admiral Halsey submitted his resignation. Now members of Congress have reached out, and Admiral Halsey has agreed to testify about why he retired, and he's bringing receipts. This could be a massive turning point. Stay tuned, because this one's not going away. Share your thoughts in the comments section and follow me for more.
Pete Hegseth needs to resign, and if he doesn't resign, Donald Trump needs to fire him. He is a walking, talking national security embarrassment. He seems more interested in winning video pull-up contests than he does in protecting this nation. He's obsessed with the weight of his soldiers, the facial hair of his soldiers, not concerned with actually keeping the country safe. He's leaking classified information. He's banning reporters from the Pentagon. There's no mainstream outlet right now that is telling you, the American public, what's happening inside the Department of Defense. But maybe most egregious is what we learned in the last week, that Secretary Hegseth gave a grossly illegal order, an illegal order to kill everyone aboard this vessel in the Caribbean, an order that ended up with our military not just shooting at the boat, but then shooting at the human beings who were swimming from their lives amidst the wreckage. That is not allowed under U.S. law. It is deeply immoral. And we simply cannot protect this country adequately if we are a moral embarrassment in the eyes of the world, if we have a Secretary of Defense who is enthusiastically giving outright illegal orders to the chain of command below him. Every single day that Pete Hegseth is at the Department of Defense, this country is weaker. You are less secure. This last revelation about this grossly illegal order that he gave is just final confirmation that the United States cannot protect itself for one more day adequately with Pete Hegseth at the helm of the Department of Defense. He needs to resign, or Donald Trump needs to get rid of him today.
So you mean to tell me that they didn't just double down or triple down, they quadrupled down on their war crimes? Because the U.S. military struck this boat 4 times on September 2nd. It wasn't just 2. The first 2 were to make sure that their extrajudicial killings were final and effective. The next 2 were to sink the boat and any evidence along with it. I really struggle to understand how it would take 4 missile strikes to take out a single boat. And I'm also really tired of the media reporting this as a drug boat, as if we've ever confirmed that. It was probably fishermen. It was probably not drugs, because everything that this administration tells us is essentially a lie. And now they're out there doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the narrative around this, even as impeachment articles are being drawn up against Pete Hegseth, and even as more and more information comes out to suggest that this administration knew exactly what it was doing and was hell-bent on killing everyone on board, no matter what the cost.
Major breaking news this morning. The first articles of impeachment have officially been announced against Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth over his alleged war crimes in the Southern Caribbean. They will be officially filed in the U.S. House of Representatives, and the articles are accusing him of murder and conspiracy to murder, and also reckless and unlawful handling of classified information. Now, the first article that they're accusing him of is because of the alleged strikes in the Southern Caribbean, not alleged, my bad, actual strikes in the Southern Caribbean, killing over 80 people so far. Now they are accusing him of a war crime because back in September, when 11 people were on a boat leaving out of the Southern Caribbean, what does Pete Hegseth do? He strikes the boat not once, but after he knew there were survivors, he ordered a second strike. That is murder. And you didn't even give anyone due diligence. That is murder as well. second article, they're accusing him of this reckless and unlawful handling of classified information. You guys know that relates to the Signal Gate, as he was talking about strikes in Yemen over a Signal chat that got leaked that could have potentially put American troops at risk, literally, because he wanted to say in these Signal chats when he was going to strike, where he was going to strike, and who he was going to strike. If the Houthi rebels got that, that would have endangered a lot of American troops. So, Pete Hegseth, the articles of impeachment have officially been announced, and, well, we'll see how far this goes.
Breaking news, the first articles of impeachment against Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have now been filed. So let's talk about what that means and what happens next. So impeachment doesn't mean removal. It's the charging document, similar to an indictment in a criminal case. Members of the House submit the articles and outline specific allegations. In this case, it's the unaliving of the people on the boat strikes. Once the House files the documents, then they have to decide whether or not to move forward with the impeachment. If a simple majority of the House votes to approve even one article, Hegseth becomes the first Secretary of Defense in U.S. history to be impeached. But he still keeps his job unless the Senate convicts. So the process then moves to the Senate for a trial, where the senators act as the jurors. Conviction requires a 2/3 vote, which is extremely rare and politically difficult. So filing of the articles is a major step, but it's the first step in a long constitutional process. And this signals that lawmakers are taking the allegations against Hegseth seriously enough to initiate the most severe oversight mechanism Congress has. Now, here's the part where we can get mad at Democrats, too. Hakeem Jeffries is already saying that there's no way they can do it because they can't get enough Republicans to vote. But we must all demand that they do it anyway. This is the only way we have to hold these people accountable. Whether or not they think they have the votes right now, they need to push this. So let's be sure to let all of our representatives know that even if they think this is an uphill battle, it is one they need to fight. Go love your neighbor.
Pete Hegseth, you're fired. Well, it just turns out the week where we've learned about the second strike on this boat that ended the lives of individuals that had actually survived the first strike, well, we're now learning more information about this Signal chat. There has been a bipartisan investigation into this, and members of the House walking out of this meeting, some have already said on the record it's some of the worst stuff they've ever seen. They've called it irresponsible. They couldn't believe what they saw. So if politicians are making statements like this, imagine how bad it is if and when at some point it's released to the general public. Pete Hegseth is not only on the hot seat, he's already burned himself. He's already gotten off the seat. I don't think Donald Trump is going to have any other plan other than having to let Pete Hegseth go. Now, that comes, as I mentioned, in the same week where it is beyond obvious that Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense, laid down the orders for a second strike to end the lives of all individuals, which we've learned from certain members of the media in the Washington Post article. And now they're leaving it to the fall guy when we know Pete Hegseth is the guy in charge and the buck stops with him. And he's made incendiary remarks about this before, about ending the lives of all these individuals without any due process. Listen, I don't defend anybody who tries to smuggle fentanyl or anything else into this country. I don't defend those people, but there is no evidence that that was happening with these people. They didn't get any due process. And I also find it interesting that they released video of the first strike on this boat. This happened several months ago. Why haven't they released the video of the second strike? Donald Trump says, oh yeah, if we have it, we'll release it. We know they have the video. Why have they not released it? I'll tell you why. Because they have something to hide. Why haven't they released the Epstein files? Because they have something to hide. Why haven't they released the medical records of the MRI recently that Donald Trump got? Because they have something to hide. Why hasn't Donald Trump released all of his tax returns? Because he has something to hide. That is what I keep telling you with Donald Trump and members of his administration. They are criminals. They are hiding things. Well, Pete Hegseth's time is almost up. And while I believed a few days ago that maybe Kash Patel would be the first one to go, I'm now starting to think that Pete Hegseth might actually be the first one to go. But should we be surprised? I warned you about this guy, Pete Hegseth. His own mother called him a woman abuser. He's a guy that has lived a life of attacking women, abuse, just a horrific human being who has a tattoo on his chest that says 100% white. This was somebody who couldn't even get a weekday job at Fox News. He was the weekend guy. And now he's the leader of the Department of Defense. Should we be surprised that all these horrible mistakes and maybe even criminality has taken place? No, we shouldn't be surprised. Donald Trump will continue to defend him until the end. But I'm telling you, Pete Hegseth's time is up.
This guy is not having a great week. This, of course, is Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, also known as the Secretary of War. And this document could be a real problem for him. This is the brand new unclassified Inspector General report about his use of an unsecured text platform to share sensitive information about an upcoming strike with at least one person who probably shouldn't have been on that group chat. You probably remember Signalgate. Yeah, this report is about that. Now, I read this entire report, and I'm going to share with you the findings of the Inspector General. But before I do that, I want to first share with you what Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, said about these findings. He posted, "No classified information, total exoneration, case closed, Houthis bombed into submission. Thank you for your attention to this IG report." How about if you decide, after hearing all the facts of what the IG actually found, whether you think Hegseth is totally exonerated and if this case is actually closed. And before you jump into the comments, which I know you want to do, and tell everyone how you feel about this based on talking points you're hearing from your favorite news channel or from your favorite news influencer, I encourage you to watch this whole video so you actually know the facts. Now, I know it's easier to watch a 30-second video or have someone spoon feed you what you want to hear so then you can form a very strong opinion based on half-truths and sound bites, but that's not how it works on my channel. I believe if you want to have a strong opinion and share that opinion publicly, it's probably in your best interest that you have a full picture and know all the facts first, right? P.S. I am going to actually email this Inspector General report to you so you can read it for yourself in tonight's Facts HQ email, so make sure you've signed yourself up for that. Okay, let's get into it. And yes, this is a deep dive, so buckle up. The IG released 2 unclassified reports this morning in connection to this Signalgate incident involving Secretary Hegseth. One was about Hegseth's use of Signal to share this information, and the other evaluates the Department of Defense's policy related to how and when Defense Department personnel is allowed and not allowed to use messaging systems that are not controlled by the U.S. government. So in this video, I want to focus on the 84-page report about Hegseth's actions. The IG says, yes, Pete Hegseth shared specific details of a strike package through a Signal group chat that had 19 people on it, including a journalist, on March 15th, 2025. That was about 2 hours before the actual strike in Yemen on the Houthis happened. And yes, the IG report includes a screenshot of some of the information that Hegseth shared in that Signal chat. The IG traced the information Hegseth shared to an email that was sent to him and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff the day before from the commander of CENTCOM, which is U.S. Central Command. That original email delivered to Hegseth on March 14th was classified as secret and not releasable to foreign nationals, meaning don't share this information with even our allies. And if you share it with people in this country, those people must at least have a security clearance to see secret information. That March 14th CENTCOM email included detailed information on the means and timing of the strikes in Yemen that would happen the very next day. The IG found that while this email from CENTCOM did have the words secret, no foreign at the top and bottom of the page, it did not contain portion markings on each paragraph. So according to DoD policy, if you are sharing classified information with other people who are allowed to see that classified information, you have to mark every portion of that document with some kind of classification. That means every subject, title, paragraph, section, tab, attachment has to have a TS for top secret next to it, or an S for secret, or a C for confidential, just as examples. In fact, this new IG report is an example of how to mark every portion with a classification. If you read the report, you see that every single paragraph has a U in front of it, which means this paragraph contains unclassified information. So what the IG found was, yes, the email that Hegseth originally received from CENTCOM did include classified information marked as secret and not releasable to foreign nationals at the top and the bottom of the page. It did not contain portion classifications of S for secret next to each paragraph. But regardless, one of the key lines in this report is right on the first page, and it says, based on our review, we concluded that some information the secretary sent from his personal cell phone on Signal on March 15, 2025, matched the operational information U.S. CENTCOM sent and classified as secret, no foreign. That doesn't mean everything Hegseth shared on Signal was classified, but the IG report says some most definitely was. But that's not the end of the story. The IG also says the Secretary of Defense has original classification authority, which means Hegseth, as the Secretary of Defense, can look at a piece of classified information and decide whether he thinks that information has to stay classified or if he thinks it can be released publicly. Well, the IG said because of that authority, if Pete Hegseth believed that sending out exact details about strike times 2 hours before they happened on a Signal group chat that included a journalist didn't need to be classified, then it wasn't classified at the time. Though the IG could not find any kind of official documentation that Hegseth declassified the information prior to sending it to Signal. Instead, the IG said Hegseth told them that he used non-specific general details to develop an unclassified summary, which he then provided to senior government officials on that Signal group chat. Now, it's up to you to decide whether sharing exact strike times is non-specific general details. Regardless, that doesn't mean Pete Hegseth is off the hook. The IG report says Hegseth used his personal cell phone to send that information to the Signal group chat, which the IG says was a decision that not only is against DoD policy, but also, regardless of whether Hegseth declassified it or not, the Secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives and potential harm to U.S. pilots. Lastly, you should know the IG found that by using Signal to send this information, Hegseth was not in compliance with record-keeping laws that require all of the Secretary's communications to be preserved. Obviously, Signal deletes messages, so the IG said in the report that Hegseth couldn't provide them with the information they needed to conduct this information, so instead, the Inspector General had to rely on the journalist who was accidentally on that Signal group chat to provide the screenshots of the messages Hegseth sent. That's also a problem. Oh, and Hegseth refused to sit for an interview with the Inspector General about his use of Signal and instead provided only written answers to their questions, which is also highly unusual. The IG did not give any kind of recommendation and did not refer Hegseth for any kind of criminal or disciplinary action as a result of this investigation. All the report says is that everyone in DoD leadership needs refresher courses on how not to use Signal or other non-government issued platforms to share classified information, and also needs courses on how to preserve documents. So, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. You now know exactly what the report says. There's no clear-cut answer. So now that you know everything that the IG found, is this actually case closed? Make sure when you share your opinion in the comments, which I know you want to do, put a green checkmark emoji next to your comment so I know you watched this whole video.